General Tamir Hayman, thank you so much for joining us as always.
It's my pleasure.
Lots of ground to cover. Let's start with Gaza. 4 months into the war, sum it up as it looks in your eyes?
I think that in the tactical level we are achieving enormous achievements and practically we are winning every tactical fight, which is relatively unusual because in long wars some battles may be lost, maybe not defeated, the enemy may not be defeated in such a dramatic manner, but in this case there was not a single battle that the IDF had withdrawn from it. By the contrary, every single battle we advanced more and more, the IDF has advanced more and more in different various methods. The method in the north was totally different than the method in the south, and although differently, it achieved the same results in a very more difficult way, because as you probably know, most of the civilian population from the north evacuated themselves to the south, which created a very complicated environment in terms of the tactical achievement. But frankly, if you had said to me 3 months from now that we will be sitting here right now and about half of the fighting capability, practical fighting capability of Hamas is destroyed in terms of combatants, in terms of gunmen, and more than 2/3 out of its battalions, 17, it's almost 18 out of the 24 battalions of the Hamas have already destroyed, I would say what you're exaggerating. Still, we did not achieve the goal of eliminating and killing the 3-4 major leaders of Hamas. This is a problem right now and it prolongs the war, but generally that's not really the problem of the war. On the tactical level, unprecedented historical success.
So let's cut it into pieces, and I'll ask you a few questions regarding the fighting. Tunnels, more than we expected, more complicated than we expected. Can we eliminate them all?
No, but we can dismantle the tunnels in 2 layers. There is the strategic tunnels, very deep, more than 50-60 meters below the level of ground, that connects the major command posts of Hamas. There are 5 brigades, 5 regional brigades, and few strategic components to the Hamas. And all of those components are connected with what we call strategic tunnels. In order to destroy the strategic tunnel, you must destroy the command post, these 5 very deep command posts. So far we have destroyed 4 of them. We have still not approached the Rafah regional brigade. And to cut those strategic tunnels in between, because of it's very complicated, very deep, you cannot really solve it in days. In order to rebuild those strategic tunnels, you need much more time, and it dismantled the function of connection all of those brigades. In the tactical level, below each one of the battalions, there is a network of tactical tunnels. Those are 15-20 meters long. You cannot destroy all 700 kilometers of those tunnels, but you dismantle them in the manner that there is no connection between those tactical outposts or the firing capabilities of all of those tunnel ends, and you dismantle them in a manner that they cannot really maneuver and cannot reinforce forces. So practically you can't really measure it in terms of how many kilometers have you destroyed out of the 700 kilometers. The question is how many battalions in the tactical level you have dismantled, and what's the capability of the strategic level. It is not yet done. There's still much to do. The destruction in the northern part of Gaza Strip, the 2 northern brigades, was very efficient. The destruction in the central camps, not so sorely, not so dramatic as the north, and we are working right now on the Khan Yunis brigade, which I think eventually the outcome will be very good.
And you've left Rafah, as you said, outside Rafah, the Philadelphia path. What Israel needs to do with that, and how can it be achieved?
That's very complicated for two reasons. One is Egypt, because of the fact that there are about 800,000 displaced persons, displaced civilians that are just across the border between Gaza Strip and Egypt, and because of the fact that we are right now maneuvering north to that area in Khan Yunis, another maneuver simultaneously will push civilians to Egypt. That is unacceptable by Egypt, and it contradicts the Israeli goal. Although there are rumors that we want to achieve the dislocation of the population, it's totally against the interest of the government as it was published, and it's truly not our intention. But in terms of the Egyptian, that is a casus belli. That is the breaching of the peace agreement between Israel and Egypt. And for that reason, you must create a different environment. And the second element, which is very important, is how to get control of the Philadelphia road, that is the border between Egypt and Israel. And in order to really dismantle or disable the underground system, you must maintain a very, very long period of time of presence there to work in the underground. So that's very complicated. The initial problem you must solve is about the dislocated or displaced, uninvolved civilians. And in order to do that, you must allow them or the capability to transfer to the northern part of Gaza. But there, that's really not finished. We haven't really finished the job there. So it's postponing that operation. It is still, I think, crucial. If you want to completely destroy Hamas, it is crucial. And if you want to avoid any kind of forced generation in the future, it is crucial. But it cannot be done simultaneously, and it does prolong the war enormously. It will take us, I think, several months to get there.
So you've mentioned one goal of the war, dismantling Hamas. The second goal is to get rid of Hamas leadership, especially its leaders. Israel was not able to do it so far. Sinwar, Mohammed Def, Marwan Issa, and a few others are still alive. How come, with so much pressure and so much intelligence, all of them are still alive?
As you said, the underground system is much more elaborated and sophisticated than we anticipated, than it was known. Just to give you a sense, beneath Khan Yunis, there are additional 170 kilometers of tunnels dedicated to the survival of the leadership of Hamas. So imagine 170 kilometers. They can be anywhere below the ground of Khan Yunis and Rafah, maybe. I imagine they will not escape to Egypt, because it's not being Islamic Brotherhood leader in Egypt is not something that's it's not a safe place to be.
Yeah, they're less safe there.
Yeah, they are more safe, and so we are cornering them. But it's so elaborate down there, and of course the fact that they are gathering surround them hostages as a human shield does not really solve the problem or ease the problems, the tactical problem that we are facing. And as you probably know, they are tough guys, those guys. Whoever served 22 years in Israel prisons know to survive in a small area for a long period of time, and he has no other alternative. It's either survive, and eventually, if you survive, you can declare winning the war, or either die. And in that term, that gives them the motivation to escape from time to time from us. But the pursuit is ongoing as we speak right now.
But they pay a very heavy price for that. They pay a price in ground, because Israel gets more and more ground. They pay a price with assets of Hamas, and they pay obviously a price with their people.
That's the price. That's all of those prices can be eliminated if they survive. It's all a matter of strategy or survival. If they survive, they can present the narrative as they please. In their eyes, they have won the war in the first day and surviving till the last day, and maybe a hostage deal that will send free hundreds of Palestinian prisoners from prison will present them a picture, an image of victory. So in that term, any other alternative but survival is a problem. Survival means winning. The problem is what will happen after the survival when they emerge out there, surrounding a society, a civilian life that was crushed totally because of their arrogance, because of their ambitions. That's the problem that really worries Hamas leadership. Just a reminder, a few months before the Guardians of the Wall operation, Sinwar almost lost the internal elections in Hamas. That troubles him. The fact that the civilians are not with you, that's a real strategic threat in the Arab world. The idea of a coup, the idea of an uprising that will shake you off your authority, that's strategic threat that really poses a problem.
But when will be a point, if at all, that we will see the people of Gaza turning against Hamas? They need to see Sinwar dead. They need to see Muhammad Def dead. They need to get rid of the fear.
They need to see that Hamas is weakened a lot, that their military capability and the force is diminished dramatically. It's all a matter of balance of fear. They are right now fearing the gunmen or the terrorists of Hamas more than they fear the alternative. So that's one element. Second element, there must be some kind of a competition regarding the reconstruction of Gaza and the humanitarian aid. Right now, the problem is that in the areas that we have already destroyed the military capability of Hamas, Hamas is taking control over the humanitarian convoys, and it is the one that supplies the humanitarian aid. That boosts up his authority and power towards the people. This is something that we need to solve quickly, because I think it's obvious when you are dealing with a two-layer organization like Hamas, which has its military component and a terror guerrilla component. After the destruction of the military structure of command and control, military industry, etc., the things that you can eliminate in military power, you are left with the terror group. You are left with small pockets of resistance that you need to root out. It's a kind of a guerrilla, civilian in the day, warriors at night. And if they get control over the humanitarian aid, and if they are the one that's supplying it, it's a real problem of regenerating Hamas.
You've touched, by the way, during your recent answer, the issue of the day after, what we call. Yes. Please explain or answer to those who say, we can wait with that until the war is over and then deal with the day after. You've touched it now because through the fact of who's giving the food, who's supplying the food, but it's bigger than that.
I can understand the criticism. Wait a minute, the day after the war, wait a minute, you haven't really finished the war. What's the rush? Finish Hamas and later on speak about the day after. Why so hurry? That was the case, and that was a real good argument if we would have worked simultaneously along all Gaza Strip. For example, imagine that all Gaza Strip were destroyed, the battalions were destroyed simultaneously. Then we could have ended what we call the stage 2, the military decision of the battalions, and imply the third stage of the next ruling address. But that's not the case. You are simultaneously, right now, in Gaza Strip, in 3 different modes. In the northern part of Gaza, you have finished the multi-layer maneuver, or what you want to call it, and there is a vacuum out there. In Khan Yunis, you are in still what we call stage 2. That's the intense, high-intensity maneuvering. And in Rafah, you're in stage 1. You haven't really maneuvered there yet. So the day after in Gaza is right now. The term word on the day after does not help us. It's the temporary civilian address that maintains some kind of an alternative civilian aspect that crushes or that help us avoid Hamas regeneration.
What future do you see for Gaza? Who will take control of Gaza, this place that nobody, apart from Hamas, came out,
I think that it will not be the Israelis, because it's against the interest of the current government, no matter whatever conference they are doing in order to return back to Gaza. I'm referring to what's done in Jerusalem. The Israel formal approach, which is true and genuine, that Israel does not want to take control of civilian life in Gaza. And it will not be the Egyptian, because they will not volunteer to come. And it probably will not be some kind of a European international coalitions that will impose mandates and run daily life like few tend to think. So if you don't have those three very sensible, very in the Israeli eyes, good outcomes, you end up with two alternative answers. One is local leaders, warlord, head of Hamula, head of family, head of a civilian, head of some kind of a temporary address that controls of a part of the area. I think it's a short-range solution and very, very fragile. But it's something that we can check. The other alternative, which is highly volatile in terms of political in Israel, is the returning back of the Palestinian Authority. Whether it is the current Palestinian Authority or the revitalized, whatever RPA you mean. It's the simplest thing to do. The problem is, in terms of Israeli internal politics, that is unacceptable, because it hints of a vision of a future state to be. And presenting a state after the atrocities of the 7th of October as some kind of achievement, that really will not pass, not in the Israeli government right now. More than that, in most of the Israeli civilians' life, most of the citizens will not accept that. So we probably need to do less than a vision of two states, less than a vision of a Palestinian Authority, but more in the terms of Palestinian authority, technical solution for time being in Gaza.
One last question regarding Gaza, hostages?
It will be a hostage deal. There is no real military solution that can attract or free all of the hostages in a single military operation, unfortunately, because of the situation that they are spread it all over, and they are now all across Gaza Strip. So eventually we will have to strike some form of a deal. The military pressure has helped us before, because it's moderated some of the preliminary demands of Hamas. And right now also we can see some kind of moderation, of more moderate approach by leaders of Hamas, and it's singly because of the stubbornness of the military operation. It's not dramatically, but it helps them reduce the thresholds of the preliminary before the discussion. And we are reaching to a point that we have 3 obstacles. 2 of them are behind us. One is single negotiator. We started in 2. Qatar in the one hand, Egypt, everyone poses another different deal. That's not possible. So in Paris, just last Sunday, we have solve that problem. The second threshold is the pause of the ceasefire, or the period of time that we will reduce our military capability. That is also solved in the last so-called suggestions that was posed, approved by the Israeli government and suggested to the Hamas leadership. I think that will be agreed on. And we are leaving the major obstacle, which is the price. How many Palestinian prisoners we're going to let go of prison? And that is also very, very sensitive in terms of Israeli politics. And imagine who will raise his hands in order to approve that kind of a deal right now in the Israeli government. It's still yet to be seen.
Let's move to the north of Israel. Israel's goal is to get Hezbollah forces, the Radwan force, far from the border. Israel says that it can be achieved in either of two ways, either in an agreement or in a war. Which one has more presence in your eyes?
Right now, the course that we are walking, it goes to a more aggressive, more violent solution than a political one. But that can be changed overnight because of the fact that as long as the war continues on, the attrition works both ways, on both sides of the fence in Lebanon. I think that Hezbollah did not dream or did not predicted such a long war of attrition. 120,000 Lebanese Shiite civilians are moved north, evacuated their villages. In the Israeli side, 80,000 of civilians evacuated the north. So the pressure on leadership worked in both sides of the fence. A high-intensity conflict, a full-scale war right now, it seems to me, and we should be very modest in prediction right now, but it seems after the experience we are facing with Hezbollah that it goes against their interest. For internal reasons of Lebanon, the pressure against Hezbollah, and probably because of the directives from Iran that they did not want to spend the prime asset, the capstone of the Shiite axis for Hamas. This is the Hezbollah that can be crushed over a full-scale war. So right now, we are in the middle of a transition phase. The operational pressure can reduce the number of Radwan forces. And maybe a political kind of agreement will freeze that situation, the operational situation. That, for time being, can be enough. And then we will move to a further discussions over the ground border with Lebanon, and maybe in exchange for reimposing the Security Council decisions 1701 that restricts the presence of Hezbollah southern to the Litani River.
But do you see that as sufficient enough to get those 80,000 Israelis back home?
That's a great question. And in order to answer that, we must remember why have we evacuated them?
To avoid 7th of October in the north of...
Exactly. Not the firing, because we were afraid of the ground infiltration, because we were afraid that the 7th of October may occur, and because of the presence of Radwan forces. Those are more capable of doing the atrocities than the Nukhba in Hamas. So to avoid the ground invasion to Israel, we evacuated them. If we will eliminate the component of a ground invasion capability from Hamas, we can address our public bravery and say the truth. The firing capability of Hezbollah still exists, but it exists from all across Lebanon to all across Israel. The element of ground invasion that can potentially create the 7th of October. We have eliminated not the intention, but the capability. They are not able to do that. And this is enough for you to return back, and we will enhance the defense. We will double the soldiers in the fence in order to defend you. And we have other alternative arrangement with the international community that can impose and secure the status quo, the new status quo after the conflict.
Tamir Hayman, a pleasure, as always. Thank you so much.